Good morning, I'm Tisha Hines, and this is the CBC Morning Report for today, Tuesday, December 5th, brought to you with the compliments of Jordan's Supermarket. In our top story, new technology is on the way to assist Barbados and the wider Caribbean in the eradication of mosquitoes, especially as scientists try to fight the bite against the Aedes aegypti dengue-causing mosquito. The device, the Renewable Energy-Powered Silent Terminator, or REST, is an initiative of the Cave Hill campus of the West Indies, where they won an award for innovation at the inaugural UE Innovate Cave Hill competition. This is in keeping with the thrust of the UWI AAA strategy, Phase 2, the Revenue Revolution. Joining us live to talk about the device and the war against dengue is Dr. Kirk Douglas, Director of the Center for Biosecurity Studies. Good morning to you, Dr. Douglas.
Hi, good morning, Tisha. Good morning, Barbadians.
Good to have you on, as always.
Yes, and it's a pleasure to be here as well.
Tell us who built this device and why one of this nature, renewable?
Well, the product REST was actually designed by a group comprising of the Center for Biosecurity Studies, of which I'm the director, and also the Faculty of Social Sciences as well. So it's a three-person team. It's myself, Miss Ayana Young Marshall, and Professor Troy Lord. And we designed this particular product. We pitched it at the inaugural Innovate Cave Hill competition, and we didn't make it to the final round. However, we were able to still secure the most innovative product, or promising innovative product. And using those funds, which were provided quite nicely by First Caribbean International Bank, and also some funding from Export Barbados, which has been a really good partner in terms of partnering with us to fund the prototype development.
All right. So the average person can understand, break down for us the makeup of this particular device and why it works.
Okay, so you would know mosquitoes follow you. Wherever you go, even if you try to hide underneath the sheet, you will hear them buzzing by your ear. And that's because when you breathe out, you exhale carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a chemical that's a lure or an attractant to the mosquito. So that's how they're able to locate you, and also using the heat of your body. And so what we do with the device is replicate basically a human body, or what the mosquito would see and recognize through its antennae and through the chemical signaling that, okay, that looks like a human being. But then we would use a fan, a vacuum to suck it in, and use renewable energy to power the killing device that kills the mosquito using physical energy. So the one of the key benefits of it is that around the globe, what is happening because of climate change, mosquitoes are obviously encroaching on areas that have never encroached before. For instance, we have local transmission of dengue in France, in Italy, also in I believe Florida as well. They've had a number of cases, and so what you will find with climate change is that the delineation or the borders where mosquitoes would actually thrive is actually moving further north. So that's a problem for not only global south, but also the global north. The other thing that's also occurring is that these insecticides, because to kill them, you're using what they call an adulticide, which is just an insecticide that kills adult mosquitoes or adult sandflies. And the mosquitoes and sandflies are building resistance to these chemicals. So whereas you may have used one lower threshold of the chemical, what they're finding is that across the globe, you're having to use greater concentrations. And of course, this means greater exposure for humans and more air pollution as well. So this is a product that we are in development. We are at the prototype stage. We're looking to take it further. And this is something that we are also appealing to, if there are any investors who may be watching this, who may be interested to for us to pitch it to them, for them to get on board, then we are more than willing to do that as well.
Are you in a position to say what it will take to be able to bring this device to the market?
Well, right now, the next stage that we are embarking on is field testing. So this is actually placing the device out in real field settings and seeing what is the kill rate and also the effectiveness. Because one feature of the product is that we are anticipating that the product will have about half an acre to an acre in terms of the effect, in terms of the range. And so we want to be able to substantiate these claims when we start to market it and we start to manufacture it and send it onto the market. So these are things that we will be working on, and we have the proprietary blend of the attractant, which is the key salient feature of the actual product. That's where the intellectual property is.
And what environments will be a best fit for use at this stage? I know you said you're about to do testing and head into the environment generally, but where would be a best fit for the device?
I think it's in the external environment. So this is something that you can plug into charge during using electricity, or you can leave it out into the field during the day with the solar panels. I'm not sure if you have a photo of the product, but if you look at it, it has these two like rabbit ears, look, um, which are these solar panels, and that collects the radiant sunshine and converts it into energy, which is stored in a battery. And then off peak hours, then the battery kicks in and generates the energy needed to dispense the attractant, which will attract the mosquitoes, also powers the fan, and also the heating device that kills the mosquitoes and sandflies as well. So I would say external environment, but this is just another tool in the arsenal in terms of the fight against dengue, Zika, and chikungunya. You would not be able to put this into your environment and just completely ignore, keeping your surroundings tidy or even trying to reduce the amount of breeding sites around the property or the home. It is still part of the strategy and not exclusively replacing all of them. What we're trying to do is reduce the exposure to the fogging and also the risk for insecticide resistance amongst mosquitoes and sandflies.
Now, we're hearing that the dengue spread is major right now, and it most certainly seems far more intense for those who are contracting it at this stage. Why is this?
Well, right now, this started early in the year, and this was a feature of the El Nino effect. And El Nino has different meanings for different parts of the world. Within the western part of South America, this is, El Nino signals drought conditions and increased temperatures. So Peru, Chile, they had major dengue outbreaks early in the year. And then coming on later in the year, what we found in the Caribbean is that we started to experience the same thing. And we all know the temperatures that we saw in the Caribbean. And in the Southern Caribbean, it's usually drier and hotter, but the Northern Caribbean is actually wetter. And this has led, obviously, to these dengue outbreaks. With increased temperatures, mosquitoes can breed faster, meaning that from egg to adult, the time that it takes to go from egg to adult is shortened drastically with increased temperatures. So that means you get more mosquitoes in a shorter space of time. And that obviously increases the risk of you being bitten and then the risk of the transmission of whatever virus that the mosquito may be carrying. Now, in terms of the actual host factors, but this is particularly patients or persons who are exposed to bites. If you are an NCD sufferer, for instance, you have diabetes or you have hypertension or even obesity, what we found is that those persons are actually at an increased risk for a severe course of dengue. So you're more at risk for contracting the severe form of dengue fever. And this is something that is obviously not new to persons because during the COVID 19 outbreak, we have heard of the risk or increased risk of persons for having a severe course of COVID 19 due to the underlying chronic diseases. And so this is just to underscore that even though we have problems with infectious diseases, we still cannot ignore the chronic disease pandemic that is undergoing in the Caribbean as well. So I guess the take-home message is to keep your surroundings tidy. Obviously, look at the product that we are also developing, and also make sure that you continue to take care of your health.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Dr. Douglas. We most certainly look forward to hearing more about this device, another addition to the arsenal, as you put it.
Yes, thanks very much. And you can rest assured that we will do our best to bring it to market.
Thank you. Well, coming up on the CBC Morning Report, the UN Security Council meets again to agree on a referendum on the Israel-Hamas war. Today's edition is brought to you with the compliments of Jordan Supermarket.
Kids Karaoke is a platform for young aspiring singers to shine and express their musical abilities. Tune in to CBC TV 8 on Mondays at 5:30 p.m. and repeat it on Saturdays at 2 p.m. and enjoy the performances of these talented young singers.
For the past 19 years, QFM has been sharing with you, learning from you, and together building a community for all mature audiences. That's why we say Q is good for you. To our Q family, we say thank you for staying connected to Q 100.7 FM. QFM is a station of the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. CBC, celebrate.
It's being reported that Israel's indiscriminate bombardment of Palestinian civilians in southern Gaza had reached new depths. Israel has ramped up attacks across the Gaza Strip, including around hospitals and in the south of the besieged enclave.
Israel has struck the Asad Safdawi school in Gaza City. Hundreds sheltering there are now on the move again. Willem Marks begins our coverage, and a warning: his report contains distressing images.
The threat from the air strikes fear into those fleeing, regardless of age. Nothing living left undisturbed, even donkeys dead by the roadside. Hussein al-Sehri works to relieve the pain of one injured relative, but says many others may be beyond hope.
Our cousin's house was behind ours. The house and the children are gone. I don't know who's still alive and who's passed away. May God help us.
The men who tried to help, emergency service workers, must now mourn too. An injured colleague, now a corpse, yet another source of grief.
The strike took place right next to the site. There are casualties amongst our boys who are inside the post. We were outside.
Patients rushed in for triage, then treatment. Teenagers and toddlers alike laid out on the floor, suffering life-threatening trauma. The director of Northern Gaza's last government-run hospital says fuel, staff and medicine remain in short supply despite the 7-day ceasefire. For those that fled south to Khan Yunis, hospital arrivals are no less hectic. Among the patients delivered at speed, a tiny baby. 2-month-old Ibrahim, born the second day of this war, without any protection from pounding weaponry.
We left the north and came here to the south, just like they asked. But this is what we found in the south. What can we do?
Amid the medical mayhem, a heart monitor in flatline and small white shroud, signals that some babies do lose this battle for life.
Meanwhile, the UN Security Council has been meeting again on the hostilities between Israel and Hamas.
It was called by the United Arab Emirates, who cited the deeply concerning resumption of hostilities and the deteriorating humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip. The UAE has been pushing the Security Council to adopt another resolution stronger than the one that they adopted a few weeks ago, focuses on women and children and calls for humanitarian pauses. And on the way into the meeting, we heard from several countries who support the idea of further council action. Countries like France, Russia, China has said as much before. But the United States, entering the meeting, made clear that the United States does not support further Security Council action. Ambassador Robert Wood saying that he didn't think it would be helpful, that negotiations are ongoing in the region, and that's where the focus needed to stay. Inside the meeting, behind closed doors, council members were briefed by Rosemary DiCarlo. She is the UN's Undersecretary General for Political and Peacebuilding Affairs. She recently traveled to the region and gave council members an update on that. We're told by a diplomatic source that a lot of her conversation was focused on the so-called day after, what happens in Gaza after the conflict ends, who will be in control there. The United Nations pushing very much for the Palestinian Authority to play a role in that situation. But we're also hearing that China raised the question, how can you talk about the day after when the bombs are still falling? So 2 hours plus of discussions, but I think it's safe to say at this stage that there will be no action from the Security Council today.
Well, it's time now to preview what's coming up on today's presentation of Morning Barbados. Dr. Gillian Birchwood will be in as we continue to tell you all about taking care of the children. And we're talking about how to manage the flu, especially with so many things happening at this point in time. Also, Conversations on CARICOM is back today with His Excellency David Commichon, Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM. We're going to take a look at COP28 and how that shaped up. And the Seroptimus International of Barbados will be here to tell us all about the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. All that, plus we're giving you a chance to win in the CBC What You Gonna Give Me for Christmas promotion. That's all at 6:30 though. Next we have more news, sports, and weather. So stay with us.
For the past 19 years, QFM has been sharing with you, learning from you, and together building a community for all mature audiences. That's why we say Q is good for you. To our Q family, we say thank you for staying connected to Q 100.7 FM. QFM is a station of the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. CBC, celebrating 60, connecting Barbadian communities.
Are you a youth group, 4-H club, school, Cub Scout or Brownie Pack, or any organization or club with children ages 4 to 11 years? If yes is the answer, then we at Fun School, we're looking for you. Let's have fun singing, dancing.
As we bring you news from back here in the region, we hear that Guyana has no plans of being aggressive to Venezuela in their ongoing territory dispute. This as tensions are growing over claims to the Essequibo region. Over 95% of Venezuelans voted in a recent referendum rejecting the International Court of Justice jurisdiction, and they're backing the creation of a new state in the oil-rich Essequibo. Security advisor to Guyana's President Dr. Irfan Ali and long-standing Barbados Honorary Counsel to Guyana, Captain Jerry Gervaux, says Guyana's, however, remains on high alert. He was speaking in an exclusive interview with CBC last night.
Just like Barbados, just like the rest of the Caribbean, we believe in the rule of law and democracy. And so we are very, very disappointed in the rhetoric that is coming out of the leadership of Venezuela. But certainly Guyana is not going to be taken by surprise. I think the President Irfan Ali made it very clear that Guyana forces are on alert. Our allies are standing with us very strongly, and we have no intention to be aggressive to any one of our neighbors.
The captain further says the significance of the controversy goes beyond Guyana. He contends that all Caribbean nations should be concerned.
Guyana and Barbados is so very close. Your Prime Minister and President Ali they have an amazing relationship, one that provides a lot of leadership to CARICOM. And President Ali made it very clear over and over that Guyana's prosperity is not going to be ring-fenced in Guyana. It's certainly going to be shared with the rest of the Caribbean. And so when this kind of aggression is happening to Guyana, I believe that all free people, all free-thinking people, all the people that believe in the rule of law and democracy should really pay attention to what is happening and pay attention to what Venezuela is attempting to do. Why would they want to come and take advantage of a small, peaceful country in a zone of peace and talk about war and have their soldiers parading and talking about annexing and military action against Guyana? But I just want to reemphasize, President Ali did say we are on high alert, and I want to assure you that we are. And while we hope for the better, we are not going to not expect the unusual.
Well, workers started to update the island's decades-old Mental Health Act. Acting Prime Minister Santia Bradshaw made the disclosure during yesterday's opening of 2 newly renovated buildings at the Psychiatric Hospital. CBC's Sharika Griffith was there.
Barbados has been receiving technical assistance from the Pan American Health Organization to revise the 1985 Mental Health Act to bring it in line with advances in the delivery of care. According to Acting Prime Minister Santia Bradshaw, the proposed changes include the provision of rehabilitation services and mental health care in the community.
The Act covers care provided in the hospital setting, but does not currently include that provided by consultant psychiatrists practicing in our polyclinics or by community mental health nurses who make home visits to newly discharged patients and to at-risk individuals. And let me just impress the urgency of having this done, Dr. Brown, because I think during the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of people were lost as well in terms of their connection with their doctors, and I know a lot of people who would have been taking medication, they've stopped taking it, and you need to be able to have the community health nurses really within the community to get these people back reintegrated and get them back on track.
The Acting Prime Minister has also disclosed that action plans are being developed for suicide prevention, among other things.
PAHO is collaborating with the Ministry of Health and Wellness in the development of a roadmap for mental health reform and a mental health strategic plan for the continued development of mental health care and its delivery in Barbados. In addition, plans are being finalized for further strengthening and expanding of community-based services through the development of action plans for suicide prevention, anti-stigma, maternal mental health, psychological first aid, and workplace mental health wellness.
Ms. Bradshaw was addressing the official ceremony for the reopening of the recreational and occupational therapy buildings at the Psychiatric Hospital. The disused buildings, which once housed a kitchen and the other a pay ward, were demolished to make way for the construction and retrofitting of the new buildings through a $3.9 million investment by the Maria Holder Memorial Trust. Chairman of the trust, Christopher Holder, says stigma and the small size of the island make it harder for people to access mental health care privately. But he says just as people prioritize physical health, they must recognize the significance of mental well-being.
The Psychiatric Hospital Occupational and Recreational Therapy Department are therefore invaluable in assisting patients to re-establish themselves as functional members of their communities. Mental health conditions are not a sign of weakness. They are medical conditions deserving of compassion and proper care. Just as we would not stigmatize someone for having diabetes or heart disease, we should extend the same understanding to those grappling with mental health challenges.
According to Mr. Holder, the psychiatric hospital currently caters for 520 people. He anticipates all will benefit from the use of the new facilities at some point. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Thanks, Sharika. Jamaica's government continues to warn against constructing structures in no-building zones. Prime Minister Andrew Holness repeated the call at a handing over ceremony for land titles in St. Catharines. TVJ reports.
The National Land Agency, NLA's systematic land registration program, saw an additional 25 residents finally receiving titles for the property they own in St. Catherine. According to Prime Minister Andrew Holness, the program forms a critical part of the government's plan to address hundreds of thousands of parcels of land occupied by residents for decades, but with no proof of ownership.
The ambition of this government is to have every Jamaican who owns or occupies a piece of land now go through the formal process to determine whether or not that can be legally ascribed a title of ownership.
But even as he championed the NLA's program, there was again a warning for persons to think carefully about where they decide to construct houses. He cautioned persons to stop building on river and gully banks, steep hillsides, and other places not suitable for housing.
I raised the issue because I made some comments when I visited St. Thomas. And I observed some of the reaction is, then where me I go live? People are suffer. And I understand that. I do understand that. But that attitude does not solve the problem. It is that attitude that gets you into the problem.
The NLA's systematic land registration program started in 2021 and has seen over 8,700 titles issued so far in St. Catherine, St. Elizabeth and Manchester. Under the program, the NLA looked at some 12,000 parcels of land in areas with low land registration. After lengthy and intensive investigations, the owners are issued a certificate of title. Some 300,000 unregistered lots have been identified under the program. The program is to be extended to other parishes in coming years.
So, when it comes to this, we are going to allocate in our next budget another massive allocation. We can't rely on the NHT wholly and solely to do this. So out of the central government budget, we will allocate another $1 billion towards land titling to make sure that this process continues.
Well, it's time for us to take a quick look at sports. Defending champions Weymouth Wales marched into the finals of the Republic Cup by thrashing UE Blackbirds 5-1 at the BFA Wildy Turf. Wales will clash with Wharton Football Club on December 10th in the final after the latter beat the Britain Silv 3-1 in the other exciting semi-final. CBC's Damien Best reports.
The Wildy Turf, the place to be for the Republic Cup semi-finals. First matchup, Britain's Hill in red versus Wharton Football Club. 13th minute, Jabari Papi Chandler rising to the occasion, and we have liftoff. Wharton 1, Britain's Hill 0. More to come in this one. Britain's Hill probing down the right flank. Gerard Maximus cut down in the line of duty in the danger area. That's indeed a penalty. And Gonzi Reed to level, emphatic. 1-1 then at the break. 6 minutes after the resumption, Wharton engineered a move down the left flank with Omani Leacock at the core. Nice 1-2 in behind the defense to Shane Lord with the nifty footwork and brought down. Penalty coming. Only fear for Leacock to give it a go. Wharton with the 2-1 lead. Body fake and drilled. Dead ball situation now at the opposite end. Ray Francis for Britain's Hill. Header is saved, but look at the red shirts charging into the 6-yard box. Reed gets his second 2-2. And it stayed that way at the end of 90 plus minutes, so extra time was required. Wharton into the attacking third. Cardinal sin. Lord goes tumbling in the box. Another penalty coming. Jafari Watson is also shown a second yellow card. And of course, the dreaded red is next. Lord now with the opportunity to be a hero. Shaquille Frank sticks out the left hand. Well done. The boys in blue had so much chances to put this one away, but lacked the finishing quality in front of goal. Well, something had to give. And in the 105th minute, Wharton finally delivered what would be the dagger to end it all. A poor clearance. Reniko Marshall into the 18. King has a goal. And just like that, it's Barbados' #1 tennis player with the ace. Talented folks, Wharton come away with the victory over Britain's Hill to advance to the final. Semi-final number 2 featured the defending champions Weymouth Wales versus UWI Blackbirds. 14th minute, the Blackbirds caught ball watching Akeem Hill, side-footed, 1-0 Wales. 4 minutes later, a delightful through ball picked out. Nadre Butcher leaves the defender and goalkeeper for dead. Class is class, 2-0. UWI looked ragged and devoid of answers. 24th minute, Wales pressing for a third in the opening 45. The speed of Butcher, devastating. The abattoir is open. It's a slaughter, 3-0. Before you could blink, Butcher completed his hat-trick in the 34th minute. The defense out of position from the top of the 18. That is lethal. An ESPN Top 10 play nominee. Worth the celebration as well. 4-0 then at halftime. There was no coming back from that position. And UWI's situation got even worse at crisis level now in the 74th. Elijah Downey on a platter to Akil Apowit. Left foot, sweet, 5-0. UWI would get a consolation in the 80th, but the result was signed, sealed, and delivered from early. Wales into the final, 5-1 winners on the night. They advance to meet Wharton on December 10th.
It's time now to take a peek at weather. And there it is. The barometric pressure stands at 1013.6 millibars. It's 26.3 degrees Celsius. The relative humidity is 82%, and the winds are blowing out of the east at 26 kilometers per hour. Present weather, partly cloudy. Sea conditions, moderate in open water, with swells from 1.5 to 2.5 meters and increasing. Small craft operators and sea bathers should exercise caution. So be mindful as you head out for your early morning sea bath today. Here's a look at how the tides roll in. And the general forecast for Barbados, partly sunny with brief isolated light showers. Into the evening period, here's what you can expect. Partly cloudy conditions with brief isolated light showers. Our next newscast is Newsday at 12 noon on TV8, followed by The World at 1 on our radio network of stations, 100.7 FM, 98.1 The One, and 94.7 FM. That's today's morning report, brought to you with the compliments of Jordan's Supermarket. Morning Barbados is next.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning.
It's Tuesday, December 5th. Morning Barbados. So good to have you in company. I'm Tisha Hines, and I'll be here with you until 8 o'clock this morning. Boy, do we have a great show planned for you today. We'll be updating you on a number of things happening here in Barbados, across the region, and indeed across the world, all while getting you in the Christmas spirit. That's right. So you'd know that we have quite a few decorations here in studio today, and I certainly hope it's keeping in step with what you are doing at your homes as well. We look forward to you sharing maybe some of those pictures to share here on Morning Barbados. But I will warn you, I'm getting ready to head off on holiday pretty soon. So I won't be here for the Christmas season. All right? Yeah, it's one of those days. You know how it goes. Of course, when you get kind of into the year, and there are some days that you're kind of like, oh my goodness, long days and long nights. So I certainly hope you're getting your rest, and I look forward to getting mine for those people who will be heading out for their holidays in the month of December. I'm showing off. I know my team won't like that, but definitely happy about being able to take a break. So we're going to update you on the new face or faces you'll be seeing in the holiday season and into the new year as I take a little time off. So, you know, do notice. Well, we're going to jump straight into our first conversation, which is conversations on CARICOM with His Excellency David Comishong. But we know that COP28 is occupying much of the headlines in the news. The World Climate Action Summit, Transforming Climate Finance, is one major thing happening. So we want to bring the ambassador in now as we look at all that was happening at that very important meeting. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Tisha.
Good morning. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Well, I may not see you for the Christmas season since you'll be off, so let me wish you a Merry Christmas well in advance.
I accept that. And to you and yours.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So
yes, COP28. How could we have a COP and not talk about CARICOM? The influence of CARICOM, the influence of Barbados, influence of the Bridgetown Initiative and Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley. Of course, the big news, the first piece of big news coming out of COP28 on the very first day was the news that the long wished for loss and damage fund, not only has it been set up, but that the pledges have come in. It is being capitalized. I think by now we should be up to approximately $100 billion, $1 billion, sorry, in capitalization. Of course, we want it to be much, much bigger than that. But the fact that that COP was able to announce that that victory on day one had a lot to do with Barbados and CARICOM, had a lot to do with work done by our climate envoy, Professor Avinash Prasad, in negotiations leading up to the start of COP28, and had a lot to do with the Bridgetown Initiative. And of course, the Loss and Damage Fund is money that will be used as grant money to help countries like the CARICOM countries that are hit by hurricanes, that perhaps are hit by sargassum seaweed, but to help them to rebuild after one of these disasters. So that is what it's really about, grant money to rebuild. So I want us to go to a very important panel that was held. It featured a number of world leaders, President Macron of France, Prime Minister Motley, President Ruto of Kenya, Akufo-Addo of Ghana, the British Prime Minister. And I want us to start with a clip from President Macron, because he puts into context how this loss and damage fund has come about.
Thanks to the commitment of EAU today, we have the Loss and Damage Fund, which is part of this initiative, and I want to thank Mia, because it was an idea launched in Bridgetown Initiative, and we will commit up to 100 million on this issue and this fund to be clear. But I think we need much more, and we need a series of clarification. And I just want to complete this agenda and the four-piece approach by three elements being part of it. One, on loss and damage. We will have to prepare to simplify the governance, and this is why I say up to, given the governance, because we should distinguish intermediary revenue countries and poor countries. We will have to give a very open mandate for the governance, because it should not be over-monitored, and we discussed that with Ajay. And we should be very careful on two things on loss and damage. Number one, it should not be a substitute of insurance and reinsurance business. Because for a lot of countries, this is their job. And we have to rethink and, I would say, reframe the financials. But it should not be taxpayers' money of certain countries to pay instead of what the insurers will leave. Otherwise, we will create a big disorder in this world. And the second point is in terms of contribution. All those who contribute to the situation should be part of it. And we should not forget prevention. And this is why, thanks to the SDRs, what the IMF is financing in a lot of countries are prevention actions. Yes. And it's very important because it's much more profitable than just financing loss and damage, because it's too late.
Opportunity to see just one aspect of what was happening, but we saw President Macron make direct reference to the Bridgetown Initiative, Ambassador.
Yes. So you see, the Bridgetown Initiative is what injected a lot of energy into this whole climate change agenda, because that loss and damage fund had been mooted, virtually decades ago, and they have struggled to put it together. The Bridgetown Initiative brought, as I said, new energy and a new movement, and I want to credit the work of Professor Avinash Prasad, because the last year's COP had made a determination that there was to be a loss and damage fund. And then they set up this transition committee to concretize the idea. And Professor Prasad was our Caribbean and Latin American representative on the committee and did a lot of the negotiating work to actually bring it to fruition. But you heard President Macron there. He's speaking about, number one, the size of the fund needs to be a lot larger. He's speaking about that we have to get the governance of the fund right. And then he's speaking about in the importance of insurance. And we are going to go to another clip where Prime Minister Motley actually schools him on issues pertaining to the realities of issues pertaining to insurance. She takes up the issue of the size of the fund and some of the other sources of funding that will be required to bring it to the scale that it is required to be at, because this fund has to be at a scale of at least 100 billion US dollars. So a lot more needs to be done, and also in terms of governance of the fund, how it is going to be governed. And I should say that, again, CARICOM is going to play a role in governance of the fund, in that the ambassador of Antigua and Barbuda has been assigned to chair a contact group to stay in contact with this initiative and make sure it is properly developed. But let's go to Prime Minister Motley's clip.
All right, before we go to the Prime Minister's clip, though, we're going to take a brief break here and come back, and then get into sharing the Prime Minister's clip. Stay with us.
Okay.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Are you a youth group, 4-H club, school, Cub Scout, or Brownie Pack, or any organization or club with children ages 4 to 11 years? If yes is the answer, then we at Fun School, we're looking for you. Let's have fun singing, dancing, listening to amazing stories, doing craft, and so much more. I'm such a kid at heart. But to be part of this fun and exciting new season of Fun School, just simply send an email to Alicia Alves Grant at aa.grant@cbc.bb for further details. Fun School is back, and we're looking for you.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Just about 14 minutes before 7 o'clock, you're tuned to Morning Barbados, and we are well in discussion with His Excellency David Commichon. We're talking about COP 28. So welcome back, Ambassador. Just before we took that break, you were introducing an upcoming clip of Prime Minister Mia Motley talking a bit about what she expects with this climate fund.
Yes, this clip where Prime Minister Motley is speaking as part of that high-level panel will demonstrate why PM Motley of Barbados, and by extension CARICOM, is such a driving force within this whole climate change movement, because of our deep, deep understanding of the issues and the fact that we have given a lot of thought, not just to the problem, but to solutions to the problem.
I cannot think of someone who has been most energetically involved in fighting for a better world than Mia Motley. We all know about the Bridgetown Initiative, Mia. We know that you don't shy away from speaking truth to power. We also know that you are tremendously capable of bringing solution mindset rather than oh my goodness, it's so bad, crying mindset. So tell us how you see this COP. How do you see our moving to a better world?
Thank you very much, Kristalina, and let me thank our hosts here in UAE for their passion and for the excellent arrangements thus far. This is where the rubber hits the road, and regrettably, we've been talking for some time. We're beginning to see progress. The question is whether it will be equal to what is needed. We believe, for example, that the capitalization of the Loss and Damage Fund is critical because it provides essential grant funds post-disaster, and that is absolutely necessary. But the scale of its capitalization will be a concern to all if it is not properly capitalized. And that's why we feel that a mechanism that allows both for capitalizing the loss and damage, but increasing what is available to you with the Resilience Sustainability Trust and what is available to development banks for resilience funding is equally critical. We've been talking about public money, which has to continue. We've been talking, however, also about mechanisms for non-state actors contributing. And whether it is through the international taxation that Emmanuel is speaking about, where we can spread the burden, not just to the oil and gas companies, which we've said, if you've made $4 trillion in profits last year, $200 billion will not hurt you. Treat 95% of your profits as 100% and give the other 5% to be shared between a loss and damage fund and financing resilience and adaptation through the mechanisms. Similarly, we're asking people, and I'm conscious of the time, so please, we're asking people to look at how do we share the burden. Each of us wants to save the planet. Now, if we have 4 billion people traveling last year, who is going to stop traveling because of a $5 or $10 US charge per ticket? And that allows everybody to be able to share the burden, as William and Emmanuel are looking to do with the International Taxation Force. Similarly, you have $7 trillion in goods moving on ships last year. If you put 1% on that, that's another 70 billion. So when you take 200 from oil and gas and you take 70 billion from international shipping, not to be passed on to the consumer, by the way, and when you take equally another 40, 50 billion from international travelers, air travelers, and then you look at what is the most efficient financial transactions tax and dealing with insurance, so that we have a dedicated source of funding, not just for loss and damage, but for the global public goods that have to be financed in order to build resilience. Secondly, we need to be able to determine how best we're going to manage and regulate carbon markets. We're talking all over the place, and we haven't settled on how best this can work to avoid the greenwashing and to avoid implosion. Thirdly,
Haji is going to solve this.
I hope so.
Putting him
and he's already started with what the climate resilient debt clauses, debt pause clauses, what we call climate causes. Barbados is the largest issuer globally now of debt with climate clauses. It works. Immediately upon a disaster, we will be allowed to save over 2 years 20% of GDP. That makes sense because I don't need to be paying debt when I should be providing shelter or providing food immediately after a disaster. And we learned the hard way when Dominica had to pay money immediately upon that. And the last point I want to make is where and how are we going to make decisions? Because that is what is holding us back. We get here, we talk. At the end of the day, how are we going to have a mechanism that can secure international taxation as efficiently as the world has imposed on us the global taxes and Pillar 2 with respect to the global minimum tax? How are we going to ensure that the voices of small countries who have a different reality, insurance works where insurable risk exists? And Emmanuel, I hope we can get that for other parts of the world. But my fear is in the Caribbean, it's already being seen as an uninsurable risk. We see the retreat of insurance companies in Florida. We see the absolute retreat of them in California with wildfires. So that is why we went for debt clauses, because it gives us access to money to deal with people who are uninsured and underinsured immediately after disaster. So I hope we can continue the conversation. Obviously, 3 minutes or 4 minutes can't get into the details of it, but suffice it to say that we have enough ideas. The problem is, where is the decision making going to be made and who is going to be at the table to make the decisions? Because it isn't only about state actors, it's also about non-state actors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mia.
Of course, just snippets of the presentations from COP28. Come back in here, Ambassador, as a follow-up to that bit of the presentation from the Honorable Mia Motley that we show.
Well, you heard the wisdom of the Caribbean on display there. You also heard that another very important part of the Bridgetown Initiative that is gaining traction, that is the debt pause clauses in lending instruments, so that you put these clauses in. Barbados has led the world with this. The UK has picked up on this. Many other countries and institutions have conceded that they're going to do it. But when you lend money, you put in this clause that if the country is hit by a disaster of a certain magnitude, that there is a suspension, a cessation of debt payments for a period of 2 years, so that government doesn't have to be, looking to pay back on loans for that 2-year period. It can use all of its national revenue to help its citizens who would be suffering from the disaster. So that's another important. The Bridgetown Initiative is really a very fertile document. It actually speaks to all of the issues, addressing issues of poverty, addressing issues of adaptation to the climate change, reconstruction after you're hit, a whole range of issues. And the Prime Minister keeps touching on a very important one, which is about reforming the decision-making in the international economic and political order. Because we always make this point that the system that we live in today was established at a time when most of our countries, the black and brown countries of the world, we were still colonies. And so these institutions were set up with us not present, and therefore we are not sufficiently involved in the decision-making processes. And the point that she's hammering on is that, yes, we come to these meetings, we come up with these good ideas, these good solutions, but what is defective is a decision-making process in which we are all involved to actually, make these ideas stick, to operationalize them. And I guess that is something that we are still struggling with. And but I dare say we are going to get it right. I mean, Barbados, CARICOM, we push the idea that the African Union should be included in the G20, and the G20 group of nations become the G21. But that happened this year. We are also pushing for like reform of the United Nations Security Council. And, so these are progressive ideas that we just have to keep the activism going. But if we look at this climate agenda, what we can say is that many of the elements of the Bridgetown Initiative are gradually being put into place, not yet at the scale that we would wish them to be at. So we have to try to upscale it all. But we can say so far, so good. The effort that we started about just over a year ago with this Bridgetown Initiative is, in fact, bearing fruit, and very good fruit at that.
Absolutely. So it's wonderful to see that in these high-level meetings at conferences like COP28, our Prime Minister was able to kind of bring more about the Bridgetown Initiative to the fore. But I'd like for us to kind of double back a little bit and look at how the regional leaders or other countries in the Caribbean are adapting the Bridgetown Initiative, or how they are, what their thoughts are in line with what's contained therein, and how we're working together to close the gaps towards 2030 and, of course, instituting the Sustainable Development Goals.
Well, let me say that CARICOM has adopted the Bridgetown Initiative. So the Bridgetown Initiative is not just Barbados policy, it is also CARICOM policy. And all CARICOM governments, all of the CARICOM representatives there at COP28 will be pushing the Bridgetown Initiative. And, and we also need to say that CARICOM has played a very big role in this whole climate change agenda. Because in addition to what we do under the CARICOM umbrella, there's also AOSIS, the Association of Small Island States, which is a broader gathering of small island developing countries very vulnerable to the climate crisis. And it is AOSIS, in fact, that really did the work to get the world to agree back in 2015, the Paris Agreement, that we must hold the rise in global temperature to no more than 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. And who is the driving force in AOSIS? CARICOM. CARICOM has largely been the driving force in AOSIS. And in fact, AOSIS is going to be meeting next year in Antigua and Barbuda. In fact, Antigua and Barbuda has been the recent chairperson of AOSIS and has done a lot of very good and positive work. So wherever you look, Tisha, wherever you look on this climate agenda, CARICOM is very deeply, very, very deeply involved. Another aspect of our Bridgetown Initiative that all CARICOM countries are pushing very hard is to convince all of the multilateral lending institutions that we have to get rid of this metric of trying to determine how, if a country is deserving of grant financing and concessional financing based solely on GDP per capita. And we are saying GDP per capita does an injustice, because many of our CARICOM countries, they say, well, we are middle-income countries. We have high GDP per capita. But we are hit by a hurricane and all of that is wiped out in 24 hours. So we are saying, no, it cannot be GDP per capita. It must be our vulnerability to things like hurricanes. And therefore, yes, even though we are middle-income countries, we should be getting grant financing and concessional financing because of our vulnerability. So these are all aspects of the Bridgetown Initiative that all CARICOM countries are on board with and are trying to push very hard.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ambassador. Always enlightening to have you with us on Morning Barbados.
Thank you, Tisha. My pleasure as usual.
Thank you. Remember, conversations on CARICOM can be seen each and every Tuesday right here on Morning Barbados. It's time for another break. We have an update of the news coming your way. There will still be an opportunity for you to win in the What You Can Give Me for Christmas promotion. And we're telling you all about the 16 days of activism. That and a whole lot more to come here on Morning Barbados. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
Oh, hi. My name is Stacia Whitaker, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist and a member of the Heart and Stroke Childhood Obesity Prevention Coalition. My motto is when in doubt, leave it out, and it goes for when I'm eating, because sometimes things have ingredients that we're not sure of, and I like to keep it simple. And if I'm eating something and I'm not sure the ingredients in that particular
morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
3 minutes after 7 o'clock, time for an update of the news. Well, Guyana has no plans of being aggressive to Venezuela in their ongoing territory dispute. This as tensions are growing over claims to the Essequibo region. Over 95% of Venezuelans voted in a recent referendum rejecting the International Court of Justice jurisdiction, and they're backing the creation of a new state in the oil-rich Essequibo. Security advisor to Guyana's President, Dr. Irfan Ali, and long-standing Barbados Honorary Counsel to Guyana, says Guyana, however, remains on high alert. He was speaking in an exclusive interview with CBC last evening.
Just like Barbados, just like the rest of the Caribbean, we believe in the rule of law and democracy. And so we are very, very disappointed in the rhetoric that is coming out of the leadership of Venezuela. But certainly Guyana is not going to be taken by surprise. I think the President Irfan Ali made it very clear that Guyana forces are on alert. Our allies are standing with us very strongly. And we have no intention to be aggressive to any one of our neighbors.
The captain says the significance of the controversy goes beyond Guyana. He contends that all Caribbean nations should be concerned.
Guyana and Barbados is so very close. Your Prime Minister and President Ali they have an amazing relationship, one that provides a lot of leadership to CARICOM. And President Ali made it very clear over and over that Guyana's prosperity is not going to be ring-fenced in Guyana. It's certainly going to be shared with the rest of the Caribbean. And so when this kind of aggression is happening to Guyana, I believe that all free people, all free-thinking people, all the people that believe in the rule of law and democracy should really pay attention to what is happening and pay attention to what Venezuela is attempting to do. Why would they want to come and take advantage of a small, peaceful country in a zone of peace and talk about war and have their soldiers parading and talking about annexing and military action against Guyana? But I just want to reemphasize, President Ali did say we are on high alert, and I want to assure you that we are. And while we hope for the better, we are not going to not expect the unusual.
Work has started to update the island's decades-old Mental Health Act. Acting Prime Minister Santia Bradshaw made the disclosure during yesterday's opening of two newly renovated buildings at the Psychiatric Hospital. CBC's Sharika Griffith reports.
Barbados has been receiving technical assistance from the Pan American Health Organization to revise the 1985 Mental Health Act to bring it in line with advances in the delivery of care. According to Acting Prime Minister Santia Bradshaw, the proposed changes include the provision of rehabilitation services and mental health care in the community.
The Act covers care provided in the hospital setting, but does not currently include that provided by consultant psychiatrists practicing in our polyclinics or by community mental health nurses who make home visits to newly discharged patients and to at-risk individuals. And let me just impress the urgency of having this done, Dr. Brown, because I think during the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of people were lost as well in terms of their connection with their doctors. And I know a lot of people who would have been taking medication, they've stopped taking it. And you need to be able to have the community health nurses really within the community to get these people back reintegrated and get them back on track.
The acting Prime Minister has also disclosed that action plans are being developed for suicide prevention, among other things.
PAHO is collaborating with the Ministry of Health and Wellness in the development of a roadmap for mental health reform and a mental health strategic plan for the continued development of mental health care and its delivery in Barbados. In addition, plans are being finalized for further strengthening and expanding of community-based services through the development of action plans for suicide prevention, anti-stigma, maternal mental health, psychological first aid, and workplace mental health wellness.
Ms. Bradshaw was addressing the official ceremony for the reopening of the recreational and occupational therapy buildings at the Psychiatric Hospital. The disused buildings, which once housed a kitchen and the other a pay ward, were demolished to make way for the construction and retrofitting of the new buildings through a $3.9 million investment by the Maria Holder Memorial Trust. Chairman of the trust, Christopher Holder, says stigma and the small size of the island make it harder for people to access mental health care privately. But he says just as people prioritize physical health, they must recognize the significance of mental well-being.
The Psychiatric Hospital Occupational and Recreational Therapy Department are therefore invaluable in assisting patients to re-establish themselves as functional members of their communities. Mental health conditions are not a sign of weakness. They are medical conditions deserving of compassion and proper care. Just as we would not stigmatize someone for having diabetes or heart disease, we should extend the same understanding to those grappling with mental health challenges.
According to Mr. Holder, the psychiatric hospital currently caters for 520 people. He anticipates all will benefit from the use of the new facilities at some point. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Students across Grenada, Carriacou and Petit Martinique will journey through 50 years of rich history with the placement of a mobile museum at various schools. The unit depicts aspects of the country's culture and heritage and will be used as a teaching tool in the build-up to Grenada's 50th independence. This is the National Organizing Committee's first activity in commemoration of Grenada's Jubilee in 2024. We hear more in this MTV News report.
The first ever mobile museum is a unique traveling exhibition to be installed in schools throughout the island for at least 1 week, taking students on a remarkable journey through Grenada's rich history and heritage. National Organizing Committee Head of Secretariat is Gail Purcell.
So the exhibit will have panel information on Grenada's pre-independence and post-independence periods, including discussions about our leaders. So you'll learn about your prime ministers, your governor generals, and some of our traditions and significant accomplishments that we've had over the years.
Other components of the mobile museum include an inter-school exhibition, competition, and a podcast engagement with the NOC funding $500 EC to all participating schools.
Well, we want you to get your creative juices rolling for this project. And as your schools, you'll come together in small groups and you will make your own historical display. And that historical display can be about anything about independence. It can be about your school, which is so rich in history, and you can share that information. And then we're going to be going around and we're going to judge the different exhibitions that each school presents. So the podcast is a space for you, the students, to practice your public engagement skills, your public speaking skills. And we want you to put yourself on display and put your school on display.
Deputy Chief Education Officer with responsibility for school administration, Kathy N. James, praises the creativity of the idea.
These initiatives
aim to foster the development of our students' sense of identity, national pride, and patriotism. The mobile museum launch becomes a vital component of the comprehensive educational strategy, providing an enriching platform for students to engage with Grenada's history and the cultural heritage at hand.
Under the supervision of the Ministry of Education, a schedule will be provided for the rotation of the museum among schools.
Well, that's our update of news at this time. Coming up a little later, right here on CBC TV8, you can expect the news at noon, Newsday, which will be followed by The World at 1 on our radio network of stations. Morning Barbados continues after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning.
Oh, hi. My name is Stacey Whitaker, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist and a member of the Heart and Stroke Childhood Obesity Prevention Coalition. My motto is, when in doubt, leave it out, and it goes for when I'm eating, because sometimes things have ingredients that we're not sure of, and I like to keep it simple. And if I'm eating something and I'm not sure the ingredients in that particular thing, then I choose to leave it out. So I keep my snacking simple with fruit, nuts, or just water. It's easy to remember, there's no added ingredients, and it's also very nutritious. So remember, childhood obesity is real, so choose healthier alternatives. And when in doubt, leave it out.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
What you gonna give me for Christmas?
Give me anything you can.
Merry Christmas.
Let me have a happy day. Why you got to give me for Christmas?
All right, it's time for you to win. All you have to do is answer that phone correctly when we call. Okay, so when I call you, all you have to do is answer the phone the right way, and you could be walking away with 1 bottle of Old Brigand rum. How about that? That's what I'm going to give you for Christmas today if you answer in the right way. So let's make that phone call and see if we get an answer. Here goes. All right, we're calling out. Remember, entrants were encouraged to
The number
send
you
their
have
names
dialed
in.
has not been recognized.
Oh boy, not again today, submitting numbers that we can't get through to. Come on, people. If you want to win, let's try that one more time for contestant number 1. The person dialing sounds like they don't know numbers so well.
The number you have dialed has not been recognized.
All right, so we're going to have to scrap that one. That's obviously an incorrect number. So let's move on to contestant number 2. That doesn't even sound like all the numbers.
The number you have dialed has not been recognized.
Did you dial 7 digits, Alicia? Because that doesn't sound like 7 digits. All right, let's try it one more time. There must be something going on with the telephone lines because every phone number can't be saying the same thing. It's not recognized. But that's the unfortunate thing about incorporating technology sometimes. So let's try it again. No, that's definitely 6 digits. Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong. It's ringing. Here we go.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I am okay.
All right. What are your plans today? You're heading out soon?
Apparently.
Pardon?
Yes, shortly.
Oh, so you're still at home?
I left home already.
Oh, you're on the road?
Yeah.
I hope this is a hands-free device if you're driving, Terry.
Yeah.
Okay, did you
In
enter
my hand.
did you enter a competition at CBC?
Yes, I did.
How are you supposed to answer the phone so you could win?
What are you going to give me for Christmas?
You didn't answer the phone like that?
Well, I know because my mechanic, yes, I do. I had a missed call. I said call back.
You didn't think to answer the phone the correct way, Terry?
No, I didn't.
I hope you get everything sorted out at the mechanic. Okay, have a good Christmas. It's all finished? All right, you have a good day today, okay?
You too.
All right, bye-bye. Terry answered, hello. No, that won't do. All right, let's move down. Next caller. Yeah, let's see if the next caller answers in the correct way. Seems we're having some challenges with the telephone, so we apologize for all of that crackling. Let's see who's on the phone line now. Answer it correctly.
What are you going to give me for Christmas?
I'm going to give you 1 bottle of Old Brigand rum. How about that?
Wow!
Congratulations. Is this Sheena?
Yes, please.
All right, good stuff. What are you up to?
Well, I'm getting ready to go to work.
Okay, where are you located?
In Black Rock, St. Michael.
Good stuff, my spot. Thank you, Sheena, and congratulations on winning your bottle of Old Brigand rum, compliments of the CBC family. Of course, you would have submitted your name and number for a chance to win. So someone from the CBC Sales and Marketing Department will call you about collecting your fantastic prize. For good measure, let's hear you say it one more time before we go.
What are you going to give me for Christmas?
I love it. Have a good one.
Anything you can spare.
Sounds like you know all the words to that song.
Of course.
All right, have a good one. Sheena Moore, thank you for being a part of the CBC What You Can Give Me for Christmas promotion. So you see, she taught Terry how it's done. You have to make sure that you're watching Mornin Barbados so that when we call you, you answer that phone. What you can give me for Christmas? And then you win whatever we can spare, which today is 1 bottle of Old Brigand rum. So keep on viewing and make sure you answer your phones in the right way.
What you gonna give me for Christmas?
Give me anything you can.
Merry Christmas.
Let me have a happy day. Why you got to give me for Christmas? I need something from you.
Of course, the CBC What You Can Give Me for Christmas promotion is brought to you by BOP. Brings joy this Christmas. Carmita's Deliciously Bajan Post Wireless World. The Best Dressed Chicken. No antibiotics ever. Swiss. Better because it's Swiss. A1 Supermarkets at Carlton and Emerald City. And the stations of the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb. From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados, home of the amazing Harrison Cave, the tantalizing Oystons Bay Garden, our historic garrison, the indigenous road tennis, and the friendliest people in the world. We are 94.7 FM, the ultimate Bajan experience.
All right, this morning our doctor on the line is Dr. Gillian Birchwood, consultant pediatrician and neonatologist at the QE8. Always wonderful to have Dr. Birchwood in with us as we look at the health of the younger ones amongst us. Today we want to look at how to manage the flu, big epidemic in Barbados right now. And of course, we want to look at some Christmas do's and don'ts with children. So good morning to Dr. Birchwood. Welcome. Good to have you here.
Good morning, Tisha. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. What about you?
I am great, and I'm glad I haven't picked up this flu because I had my flu vaccine. And right now, it's really a problem for the children in Barbados.
All right, so talk to us about the flu. What is it? And, usually we know how it spread because we know, but what are some of the symptoms that we can look out for?
Yes, so the flu is caused by a number of influenza viruses. It's different from a regular cold because, sometimes people use the terms interchangeably, but it is different from a regular cold. So the influenza virus is spread very similarly to how the cold virus is spread. People cough, their hands become contaminated, they touch objects, other people will touch those same objects and then get themselves infected. But the symptoms are different from a regular cold in many cases. So there may be quite a high fever, which is what we've been seeing in children, quite a high fever that goes on for a significant period of time. And of course, you can get your runny nose and coughing, but you can also have vomiting and diarrhea and aches and pains about the body that you see with influenza virus. And you don't tend to see that as much with the cold. In addition to that, it can affect children at high risk much more, which would be children who have asthma, for example, chronic illnesses like asthma, diabetes, children whose immune system is suppressed, like children who have cancer, and children with sickle cell disease. So it's really important to pay attention to influenza.
All right, that definitely is a lot happening, and we don't expect to see all of those symptoms with what would be deemed a flu. So for the little ones who are watching, let's remind them how they can get this flu.
Yes, so definitely hand hygiene is so important. So, children are not always the greatest with the hand hygiene, but I think that has improved a lot since COVID and the reinforcement of all those guidelines. But you need to make sure that your hands are clean. If you are around someone who has, flu-like symptoms, you can wear a mask. They should wear a mask, and we're all familiar with mask wearing. So coughing into your hands, touching surfaces that are frequently touched by others, like the light switch, the faucet when we're going to wash our hands, or the fridge handle, door handles, and then someone else comes along, touches that surface, and then rubs their nose or puts their fingers in their mouth or their eyes, and that virus gets directly transmitted. Also, if you're in the supermarket, you're touching things, you're in areas where there are lots of people touching things, don't touch your eyes, nose, and mouth without cleaning your hands, because you can definitely contaminate yourself with the flu virus and then pick up the flu. So it's very important. And those tissues that people use, they have to be disposed of very carefully. Don't use a wash rag that you're going to sneeze in and reuse, because that's really going to become contaminated and spread it to other members of your household or the classroom or whatever environment you happen to be in.
But would you advise parents to send little ones or young people to school if they have a flu? At what stage should we say, okay, you definitely should be at home?
Yes, I think that's such an important point to bring out. If your child is sick, please don't send them to school. And if they've had the influenza or been diagnosed with the flu, they should not go back to school until they are fever-free for at least 24 hours and are no longer having active runny nose and an active cough. Otherwise, it's going to spread rapidly. And I think this is what has been happening in our community. And the kids have really been coming down with flu and other viruses like wildfire in the community right now.
That's definitely a lot to kind of get through, and a lot for us to think about. Let's talk about treatment. Now, I grew up in a household, and my mother probably is going to be upset with me for this, but I grew up in a household with my mother with a medicine cabinet. That's what she called it. So we would do a lot of self-diagnosis, and then he was like, oh, you have a runny nose, so I'm going to go to this or that. And, you know, in the Caribbean, we have our own little remedies and so on. But with this particular flu, you know, what's your advice to parents in terms of treatment?
Yes. So the first thing to do is to know that and remember that influenza and the flu is caused by a virus. It is not caused by a bacteria. So antibiotics are not going to be helpful. Basically, you have to write it out, and your body is going to get rid of the virus easily in most cases. So you don't want your children to become dehydrated. You know, they refuse to drink fluids. You want them to drink lots of fluids. And with the little ones, especially those under age 5 years, they may refuse to drink, and then they have to end up being admitted to hospital just to get IV fluids so they don't become dehydrated. So they should drink lots of fluids. Next is they should get lots of sleep. Make sure they get their rest to help them fight the illness. And yes, you can take medications to help with the symptoms. The medications are not going to make the flu go away any faster. So medications that contain paracetamol, which is very commonly used, you should use those to help with the fever. Aspirin should not be used, and some children are on aspirin for chronic conditions. No aspirin if you have the influenza. It can cause a severe illness called Rye syndrome. As we said, no antibiotics. We talked about staying at home. Don't go spreading it to everyone. And make sure that you keep a close eye on children who are high risk, and get the flu vaccine as close to the end of October as you can. It takes about 2 weeks or so to work, and it's really important, especially for children with high risk conditions.
All right, in terms of getting the vaccine, must we get it privately, or can you go into the polyclinic or go to the QEH and say, we need to have the flu vaccine?
It is very much available in the polyclinics every year, and we encourage people to go and get the flu vaccine. I made sure to have mine, and everyone in my family gets it. It's not a pleasant illness, and it is also available at many private facilities as well. So there are a lot of options for parents to choose from. There's no need to wonder where to get it, and you don't have to pay to get it. You can get it right there at the polyclinic. So I would definitely encourage that.
All right. I think what's most important is for parents to remember, as long as your little ones are sick, I know sometimes it presents a problem, particularly if you're a single parent, to be able to figure out arrangements for the children if they're not well, but definitely not a good idea to send your children to school if they are not well. All right. With that said, let's move on now to the do's and don'ts for Christmas, because around this time of year, a lot of the times we see little ones getting hurt from time to time. So let's talk about some of the do's and don'ts.
Yes. So Christmas is the time of year we all look forward to. You know, we wind down a little bit and we enjoy ourselves a lot. So some of the things to make sure that we do is to make sure that we have a safe home for our children. We all love putting up the Christmas tree. As you can see, I haven't gotten around to mine as yet. I need some help. But we want to make sure that the Christmas tree is safe. So all those small decorations that you have on the tree, if you have young children and toddlers, you want to make sure that you avoid those small decorations. The snow spray that some people like to use, if children eat that, it's actually poisonous. So you want to make sure that if you have young children, you avoid it. At Christmas time, we all love those pretty plants around the house. We like our poinsettia and all the rest of those other plants. Poinsettia is poisonous, and other plants are poisonous. If you have young children who are likely to sample the plants, you need to make sure that you have safe plants. The other thing we do lots of at Christmas time, and we all enjoy it, is cooking. And with all the cooking that's going on in the kitchen, you want to keep the young children away from the kitchen, away from the oven and the stove. When you're cooking, if you can, cook on the back burner that's far away from little hands reaching up. And you want to turn those pot handles in. I can't tell you how many times children have pulled on pot handles on the stove and hot liquid splashes all over their face and chest and the front of their body. It's devastating. You want to make sure that when you're having people over, you don't leave little cups of alcohol lying around. Children have been known to come and drink some of that which is left around. And so you want to be very careful. You do not want any drunk children in your house at any point in time. When you're cooking that turkey and the other foods, put them up and store them safely. You don't want the side effects of not storing that turkey safely, very unpleasant, the next day. So those are some of the do's to make sure you do at Christmas.
All right. And of course, you win that round, Dr. Birchwood. You just said if you have any plants that the children might want to sample.
And they do.
That is too funny. All right, let's talk now a little bit about foods that you should avoid for the little ones, because in our culture, we most certainly feel like even for the babies, put a little taste in their mouth, let them have a little sip. So what are some of the things that maybe we should avoid for the little ones?
Yes. So you'll want to avoid foods that can be a choking hazard. At Christmas time, we may bring out the nuts, for example. That's definitely a choking hazard and can stick in the airways and get down into the small airways. And if the food gets down into the airways, if it doesn't choke, which we definitely don't want, and it gets into the airways, it has to be surgically removed. So you do not want that to happen to your children. Other things like raisins and cherries, you have to be careful with, because again, those can be a choking hazard and get down into the airways. Candies and chocolates that are circular and can block the airways, definitely dangerous. And we don't want the children eating lots of junk food. It's a time where we all love to eat junk food, I know, but keep that to a minimum. Let them have a little something. After all, it's Christmas time, but we don't want to overdo that for sure.
What about activities? I know usually around this time of year, parents want to buy some of the most popular games and so on. And many of us tend to not listen, not read those warning labels. So there are many toys that say for children, X age to Y age. So we definitely need to reinforce that. Maybe because you want to play or you think that your child is a little more mature than that average age, you have to be mindful of that as well, because we know children love to put things in addition to the sampling, Dr. Birchwood. They like to place things in places that we can't always discuss.
You're absolutely right. I remember once looking at a little boy, I looked up his nose and I saw a bright blue object. This was just on routine examination. And, children will poke things in areas that they really shouldn't. So things like Lego, toys with small parts. And even if you have Lego that's fine for a 10-year-old, you might have a 1-year-old in the house. You don't want the Lego available because the 10-year-old will not stick it in the wrong place, but the 1-year-old certainly would try. You don't want children to have toys with those button batteries that can dislodge easily. The button batteries are the flat, shiny, coin-like batteries. If children ingest those, in addition to being a choking hazard, when they dissolve, they contain a corrosive material that can damage the internal surfaces and cause burns. You don't want to have them spending all their time watching the TV and sitting and vegging in front of their screen time. Really very, very important to get them up and outside. That's where children belong, up and outside, whenever it is safe to do so.
And usually around this time of year, we tend to be plugging things in a lot more around the house. So we really have to be mindful of that as well, because you might have a few plugs that, you have the caps that you put into them. But around Christmas time, we tend to be a little more laxed in terms of what we're plugging and where.
Yes. And you're so right. We often have overloaded outlets. When you plug in the lights on the Christmas tree and you have 3 or 4 things stacked. And as you rightly said, the socket outlets might not be covered. When we have young children, we'll place the socket outlet covers on them to prevent the children from sticking metal objects in, which can then cause an electric shock. So you have to be extra vigilant because we do tend to relax and let our guard down around Christmas, but we want to be vigilant about these things. Get down on the floor, look around your house if you have young children, see things from their eye level, because then you're going to know what they're looking at and what they might be interested in. And be very careful about, again, those small bulbs and fragile ornaments on the tree. They're likely to pull them off. They can pull the Christmas tree down as they're interested in the shiny lights. So you have to be really careful when you have small children, and beware of the fire hazard of overloading sockets next to real Christmas trees or even artificial ones, which can catch a fire and be a fire hazard. Be very careful, parents, this Christmas, but still enjoy it.
Around this time of year, we often hear about a lot of children who go temporarily missing in the busy shopping areas, or if they're,
Yes.
or if there might be activities or events, and they're very, very
Yes.
hectic, very busy.
Yes.
So we want parents
Yes.
to be mindful about that as well.
Yes, that's such an excellent point. So when you're going to these events, find a place and tell your child, if we get separated, we're going to meet here. You don't want your child wandering around looking for you. They should go to a pre-designated spot, and they should be told, stand here, mommy and daddy are going to come and find you. Don't move from here. If they are in a position to see a policeman, teach them, what people in positions of authority look like so that they can make themselves known to the policeman. Make sure they know their name and their parents' names and their address or their parents' phone numbers. Children really learn things very well. So teach them a pre-designated place to meet. Make sure they know their name and their parents' names and their address or phone numbers if possible, so they can share that information and make sure that they are safely reunited with their family. That happened to me as a child, and because my parents had told me what to do, I was able to not panic and stand in the place that they told me to, and they reunited with me. So that's definitely an excellent point as we go about all those fun activities we like to do as a family.
Yeah, we had a scare like that one year at Kadooment with one of my nephews. He was 3 at that time.
Mhm.
Can't talk about it. It was
Yes.
crazy. It can definitely be a difficult time.
Terrible.
It might seem like a very
Yes.
short space of time, but when you think of that little person by themselves and you
Yes.
don't know where they are, it can be
Yes.
very, very nerve-wracking. All right, is there any
Yes.
additional advice or any safety tips that you'd like to leave with us that we might have left out so far?
I think that the last thing that I would say is, yes, you can, maybe allow the children to eat things that they would not normally eat on a day-to-day basis and drink things they wouldn't normally drink on a day-to-day basis, but make it clear it is for a short period of time. Don't allow them to overdo it. Christmas weight gain is a real thing, not just for adults, but for children as well. And unfortunately, we've had a major problem with childhood obesity in Barbados. We want to make sure that we balance all those goodies and treats with physical exercise and get them off the screen time. They can play all those board games and have family time in such a fun way. So don't forget to bond as a family, and don't overeat, and don't spend excessive amounts of time on the screen so we can avoid the Christmas weight gain that we see every year over the holidays in children. Have a great Christmas, Barbados. Enjoy it so much.
And of course, the entire family here at Morning Barbados, and by extension, the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, would love to thank you for being with us for this entire year and sharing with us
Thank you.
over the entire series. We want to wish you and yours all the very best for the Christmas season and for the coming year.
Thank you, and love to the CBC family.
All right, Dr. Gillian Birchwood, neonatologist and pediatrician at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Always wonderful insight for us. Remember, keep the liquor away from the little ones. at this Christmas time? Because we know there's usually a lot more going on, so you want to be mindful about that. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to tell you more about the 16 days of activism. That's next.
From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados, home of the amazing Harrison's Cave, the tantalizing Oystins Bay Garden, our historic garrison, the indigenous road tennis, and the friendliest people in the world. We are 94.7 FM, the ultimate Bajan experience.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kia Lewis, General Practitioner and Healthy Lifestyle Advocate. Good nutrition starts at home. So this school year, I want you to consider packing healthy, nutritious snacks and lunches for your children to carry, rather than having them buy them at school. And don't just pack things you think they should have. Have a discussion and come up with things that you both know they will enjoy.
We enjoy a game of dominoes and singing karaoke.
I just love crew.
When you love me just a little bit longer.
You get to relax and have a drink and listen to some nice music.
It's something different. It's spectacular. It's fabulous. You know, it's a different feeling altogether.
Follow me to Q in the Community this Thursday.
You know why? It's summer vacation, and CBC TV8 says laugh a little. Your mid-mornings have now included some family-friendly, side-splitting series like The Partridge Family, Benson, and Designing Women. TV not to be missed this vacation. Weekdays from 10 a.m. on CBC TV8.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's time for us to welcome Dr. Deborah Joseph, President of the Soroptimist International of Barbados, as we look toward the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Tisha. Thanks for having me again on your show.
It's wonderful to see you again. For those people who might not know, and usually we're far more involved, so it's wonderful that we're jumping in at this stage. Tell us more about the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
Yes, our club is, SI Barbados is celebrating our 61st anniversary this year. So we have been around a long time, enabling, empowering, and educating women and girls. Now, this 16 days of activism started in 1991, with the Center for Women's Global Leadership and participants at that seminar. They decided to have a global campaign against domestic violence worldwide. So it has been started a long time ago. And every year there's a theme. This year the theme is Unite, Invest to Prevent Violence Against Women and Girls.
What are some of the unique challenges that we're seeing here in Barbados, or maybe not so unique challenges, because sometimes we think that's what's happening with us, is different from what's happening in other places. And I know culturally there are some differences as you move to different places of the world. But what are some of the major things that women are grappling with that you are seeking to bring to the fore and combat at this time?
Yes, domestic violence is a wrong and has been a wrong for a long time. And I just want to say that greater than 5 women and girls are killed every day in the world because of it. And it's the most pervasive human rights violation in the world today. We see financial abuse, we see physical abuse, we see psychological abuse, because in the Caribbean we have a way with words, and we will tell persons a lot of things to really lower their self-esteem and make them feel less than. And we see that in a lot of families, and I say the Caribbean. I just don't want to single out Barbados. And it's happening, it could happen all over the world, but culturally, the way we speak to each other and the way we speak to each other in families, it's not right at times. We have to learn to just be kind. And women experience a lot of domestic violence because growing up, persons have seen that this violence is the norm. They look at it as the norm. I did a research with Grenada and Barbados assisting, and it was found that domestic violence was like dogs barking in the home, and people have normalized domestic violence. So what Seroptimus International Barbados is about is to bring awareness of what the domestic violence and what we can do to have preventative measures and to bring awareness and advocate for survivors of domestic violence. We partner with other organizations to do just that and bring services to women and girls in that context.
We know that it all got started on the 25th of November, and that day is actually the International Day to End Violence Against Women. And it will culminate coming up on Sunday, which is December 10th, and that is International Human Rights Day. Let's talk about some of the activities that were done or what's coming up to commemorate these 16 days.
Yes, Tisha, thanks for that. We had a successful webinar yesterday. We collaborated with the University of the West Indies, the Department of Government, Sociology, Social Work and Psychology. We had a panelist of 4 persons who spoke about what happens in domestic violence shelters, who spoke about counseling domestic violence clients, and who spoke about self-defense in domestic violence. And this self-defense does not include guns or equipment or anything that could cause harm, but it helps you to know that if you're in a chokehold, what you can do, the way you can breathe to sort of help to save yourself, how you can use parts of your body during that time to sort of avoid any extreme hurt and harm. And it was very interesting. And we also learn about persons with disabilities who are experiencing domestic violence. There's a research that was just concluded in Guyana that spoke to persons with disabilities who have experienced domestic violence. So it was really informational and it was enlightening. And they have some services that we can emulate and we can pattern according to the success rate here in the Caribbean and here in Barbados. So it's always good to cast your nets askance to get more information and to get more enlightenment as to what we can do to assist women and girls in this situation. And we really need to bring men on board so that they can be aware of it also. And we need to teach children from an early age the signs of the domestic violence and for them not to normalize violence in the home as is being done presently. So education is key, awareness is key, and campaigns are key at this juncture.
That's very, very important because I think at times like this is where, and I want to speak specifically about Barbados, is where Barbadians tell you to mind your own business, but we are free to be maliciousing in the Bajan sense of the word, in other people's business, in every other area. But as long as it is deemed what we would term a man and woman incident, or sometimes it's not even that, it's something going on within the family, These days we have mixed families too, so people of the same gender, as long as it is some romantic or family situation going on where you can look on and see that maybe there's some measure of abuse happening, people are told to mind their own business. So I think that is one thing culturally that we have to work on putting on the back burner. So how do you intend, as you move forward with this mandate with Seroptimus International, of getting women and girls to a far better place when we talk about it in the context of violence that is perpetuated, directed specifically toward them because of their gender? What are you doing to kind of work to stamp this out from a cultural standpoint? When you underpin it with culture, it's that much more difficult to kind of eradicate or even minimize the impact that you're seeing.
Thank you for that, Tisha. I think education is key and awareness, and we have to do it consistently, and we have to do it all the time. And as I said, it must start from the primary level. Education in schools. It has to be part of the curriculum, if it can be, under health, and it goes right through to secondary school and upwards. Because sometimes when somebody's in a relationship and the person is checking in on them all the time and saying, "Where are you? Where are you going? What are you doing?" They're saying, "Oh my, he loves me. He's so concerned about me." But we need to know that that forms part of controlling behavior. And it's not love. Yeah, it's good to be concerned, but there has to be a balance. And those are the things that we need to impart to our young girls and young boys out there as to how to treat each other with kindness. So awareness, as I said, bringing attention to it, working with other women's organizations like the National Organization of Women is also key, because we went on a bus ride about a week ago to really bring awareness to domestic violence to persons on the road. We went to Oistins and we went to Six Roads, and we just walked around and gave out flyers and spoke to people on the ground. If we have a little bit more of that, that will help a lot, because we told them about the Domestic Violence Act, and we told them that they can get help, and there are shelters, and persons were willing to speak with us and tell us about their experience of domestic violence, and if they can do that to a perfect stranger, how many more persons can we reach if we do more outreach and advocacy like that?
Oh, absolutely. And congratulations to the Seroptimus International of Barbados for, of course, working towards sharing more with the general public. For me, on a personal note, I would certainly love to see us talking a lot more about, we hear lots about red flags, and we talk about warning signs, but I would love for us to share more of what healthy relationships look like as well. And, what healthy behaviors are, so that you share both the positive, share the positive side, so people know what to look for, because you're telling them about the warning signs, but you're not countering that with what they need, what it should be, or what they need to look for to deem it a healthy relationship, or to deem it a healthy behavior. So, that's from me. For me, I would love to see more of the positive side of things. And I usually balance that with a story about hugging and kissing one of my nephews one day, and another boy, a friend, he was appalled, He said, "What are you doing?" And I explained to him, I said, "Well, that's not that kind of hug or kiss. So do you get hugs and kisses at home?" And he said, "No." So after I explained it to him, I mean, even though when I see him, I know that he's still looking on. So it's good to share some of the healthy attitudes and behaviors as well, so people know what the positive things are that they can look forward to. All right, with all of that said, you are definitely celebrating a big anniversary. So talk to us about generally what you're doing for this 61st.
Oh, yes. Well, we had our big celebration last year at our 60th. We had a gala, at the Radisson where we really honored some of our long-standing members. One member has been in our club for over 50 years, and she's still going strong. And we honored about five other persons along with her. And it was really a grand evening, but we continue with our projects. We continue reaching out to girls who are at a risk with the law. We continue with our New Horizons program, and this year the theme is a hand up, helping them, and that is on Saturdays from 9 to 12. And not every Saturday, I guess it's just about 3 days for the week. We continue with our online campaigns for Universal Days, and this is one. We have a campaign online for 16 days. We have that going. We continue with our climate change activities, our beach cleanups, and partnering with other organizations to just make a difference and make an impact in the world. And we have our Seroptimus Village and Activity Center where we provide, independent living for at least 22 senior citizens, and they live there on their own. And we are asking corporate Barbados if they want to step in and support a project. This is the project to support. Yes. So it's ongoing, and we do a lot. And the good thing is we partner with other organizations to make it happen because we can't do it alone. Tisha.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Deborah Joseph, President of Seroptimus International of Barbados. If you want to get involved, you can reach out to them, and they're easy to find. I've visited the Seroptimus Village and the Activities Center, and they truly are doing fantastic work in those areas. Thank you so much. All the best to you in this 61st year. And we will certainly look forward to all that will be done as we continue to observe these 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. That will all culminate on December 10th, and that day is International Human Rights Day. So look into it and make sure that you are fully aware of what it means and how you can get involved. Thank you again, Dr. Joseph.
Thank you so much, Tisha, for having me, and all the best for the Christmas season.
And to you, thank you. Okay, we're going to take another break here. Bye-bye, and come on back on Morning Barbados and wrap up today's presentation. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's Match Day Live from the 246 with host Damian Best. Your all-access pass to the action happening in the BFA Premier League and beyond. Every last Monday of the month on CBC TV8. Kickoff time, 8:30 p.m. with analysis from our panel and highlights of the top performances. You can weigh in on the discussion via WhatsApp on 228-5562. It's Match Day Live from the 246. Don't you miss it.
My friend, you don't plan to get it? Oh, Barbados. Hey, I'm KB Clean. Join me 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. right here at 94.7, the best and ultimate Bajan experience. My show is called Bajan to the Bone. Don't miss it, Bajan to the Bone. Weekdays right here and only here on 94.7.
I'm Anne St. John, a consultant pediatrician. When packing healthy lunch boxes, do include a fruit, which includes a banana, apple, orange, or grapes to supply fiber. Aim for
under 19 netball competition, and of course they're seeking to raise funds to support Shakira Shuri, Miss Shakira Shuri. She's the physical education teacher at the Darrell Jordan School, and also coach or manager of the Talons Track and Field Club. And she is continuing her fight against cancer. We want to join them on this initiative. The finals comes off today. It's going to be at 3:45 over at the Wilde Gymnasium, and there for the first time. Now, coming up on tomorrow's show, we're talking HR with the Human Resources Management Association of Barbados, and we're looking at planning for the year ahead, some strategies, and of course, resolutions. Also, Doc Talk, Men's Health with Dr. Paul Rouse. Little 5-year-old Blessings Taylor urgently needs major corrective surgery to improve her breathing, and her parents and aunt will be in to tell us more about how we can help. So on behalf of the entire team here at Morning Barbados, thanks for viewing today. God willing, we'll be back with you tomorrow. Do something good for somebody and wear a smile as you head on out, and make sure you tune in bright and early tomorrow for Morning Barbados. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning, Barbados.